is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, man, we've got a great one planned for you. Buff Bagwell is my guest. I just want to say real fast before we get started, because we got a great conversation coming up for you. It is so cool to see the resurgence of both Buff and Scotty Riggs right now. And shout out to DDP for spearheading that charge. Man, he's done great work with both of them, getting them back on track. And it's great to see people that, you know, were from my childhood, people that I watched doing so good these days after having such a rough path, you know, and Buff will be the first one to tell you. And it all hasn't always been easy for him, but man, I remember when that Mr. Rogers picture came out of him and the internet just exploding in excitement for, you know, what was very clearly, you know, him marking this point of, you know, turning his life around. And it is such an honor to be able to speak to him. I am so glad I got a chance to speak to him during a time period that, you know, it's on the up and up, you know. And man, we talk about this a little bit in the episode too. He got me so good when I was a little kid. Even to this day, like, you go back and watch the footage, he's one of the only people on earth that actually pissed me off when I watched him, because he played the persona of, you know, the shit heel to a T. And man, it's like I said, even to this day, I still watch some of that old footage and I'm just like, get so irritated, but because, you know, that's how good he was. But anyway, yeah, not a whole lot to talk about today. I really just want to jump into this because I really think you guys are going to enjoy this interview. He was such a pro, and you know, much love to him and continued success. So let's go ahead and hear from our sponsor, and then we're going to get right into it. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. What is happening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, we have a very special guest with us today. He is one of the most popular NWO members to ever exist in the faction. He was a 5-time WCW Tag Team Champion. For some reason, he isn't in the WWE Hall of Fame yet, but I'm pretty sure that'll change, hopefully sooner than later. He is Buff. He is the stuff, and the ladies, they still can't get enough. Buff Bagwell, what is going on, my man? How we doing?
I'm doing great, bro. Great introduction. Yeah, they're, you know, that Hall of Fame thing's a little tricky. I definitely made a lot of people really upset in a very short period of time. I mean, I don't know what I did. It's really crazy, but no matter what, everything seems to come through in life, and with the Hall of Fame, you know, you don't ever want to be part of things like the 5-time World Tag Team Championship with 4 different partners. That's, to my knowledge, it's never been done before. Somebody did tell me that Ricky Steamboat did it. He's got 5 titles, and I think with more than 4 partners. So if that is true, me and Ricky Steamboat are the only 2 wrestlers in the history of time to have 5 World Tag Team titles with 4 or more partners. Pretty good people to be in contact with. But you don't want to be in that field a lot of times. Like, for example, You know, um, I'm the only wrestler in the history of time to be main event one week and fired the next. In that week, nobody saw me. So how did I make that many people mad from being at home? So somehow Buff Bagwell being main event on one week and then fired the next is baffling to me. And 25 years later, I still don't know why. So it's kind of weird, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I love the WWE. I love what they do. I love pro wrestling. I love it. I would give my resume, I think, speaks for itself. Rookie of the Year, NWO member, 5-time World Tag Team Champion. I mean, I had the body, I had the look. My resume speaks for itself, but my actions with DUIs and trouble over the years, I can understand why the WWE would not want to be part of me. I can get it. But being 18 months sober and good things being said about me now, hopefully that can turn around now, because I would love to be under the umbrella of World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that all the people that they have let in throughout the years, they have done way worse than you have. And you've always been a fan favorite, which we'll get into a little bit more of your career here in a second. But I definitely don't think they can deny you too much longer, especially considering the fact you have so many people pulling for you. But I kind of wanted to talk about your origin story here for a little bit, because there's something that I've always been curious about. Is for every wrestler that I talk to, um, I've always been curious on how you got into the professional wrestling industry, both as a fan and as a performer, because in my research, I saw as a young man, you kind of had a lot of variations of what you were into. You were a great high school baseball player. You worked for your family's lumberyard. After you graduated high school, you got into boxing. And then once your family's company went bankrupt with the lumberyard, you went into massage therapist. How did that kind of align of all these different interests eventually lead into professional wrestling? And were you a fan as a kid?
That's all of those are fantastic setup to what I got to say. The timing's a little off, and so let me kind of
Okay.
just redo it. It started
Okay.
as a very rich kid, very extreme successful family with the lumber company. Southeastern Building Supply was its name. From the moment we were born, uh, we had I had two brothers, three boys in the family. We were super athletes. We were pushed to do athletics. We were pushed to do everything we could do, but it all was going to end at Southeastern Building Supply, the lumber company. Everything was ending there. So no matter what we did, we knew that was going to be the ending. So throughout, though, it started with superstar baseball, football stuff. Boxing was very young. It wasn't after I graduated. It was at
Oh,
12.
okay.
If you went back in the record books of 1982 with boxing, you would see in 1982 or 83, it went from weight to age. So in 1982, it was weight. So I was fighting guys that was my weight. I was small for my age, so I was 61 and 1. I won the Golden Glove State Championship boxing in Georgia in 1982. But in 1983, it went from weight to age, and I started getting beat up because I was small for my age. So when it went to age, I was fighting bigger kids that was the same age as me. So I was small for my age. So I was going to take a year off and come back to boxing because I loved it. I took a year off, and girls' high school happened and didn't happen. So football, baseball became my interest. All county, all state, in both. But again, uh, seeing how good we could be was one thing, but it all was going to end at Southeastern Building Supply. So my senior year, I was dugout player of the week, which is a big thing in Cobb County. It's called the dugout team, and I was on the dugout team and the dugout player of the week. And our team went to the state championship, but we lost to Noonan. And then my senior year, after all that, my dad hits me with, "We're going broke." And we're like, what? Are y'all kidding? What? Now, the other two boys already worked there. They already had houses and married. They were married and had families, and they were working at Southeastern. And I was the baby. I was going to be the third boy that worked at Southeastern, and all the Bagwells under one roof at Southeastern Building Supply, keeping it going. Instead, it was boom, it was going down. So, with it going down, my dad comes to all three boys and goes, hey, it's going down. What do y'all, you got to find something to do. So my oldest brother, my dad had enough money to get us started in something. So my oldest brother wanted a gym. He paid for a gym for my oldest brother. My middle brother wanted to do a drywall company. So he bought him a boom truck and got him all kind of set up for the drywall. I'm 18 years old. I have no idea what I want to do. I was going to work for Southeastern Building Supply. So and I'm not sure how it got brought up. I do remember I always massaged people's necks and shoulders growing up. That was something I enjoyed doing. And I think it must have been my parents' idea at 18 to say, what about massage therapy? And once I investigated it, I had a horrible grade point average. Again, because it was going to end at Southeastern Building Supply. If I didn't graduate, I was going to Southeastern Building Supply. If I graduated, I was going to Southeastern Building Supply. It didn't matter. So, but now all of a sudden, now I need a career. That 1.8 grade point average, now it does matter. So I want to be maybe a sports trainer, something sports. Massage therapy was the quickest first step into being some type of sports trainer that I could get something underneath my belt and be making money instantly. So it was $10,000 to go to the Atlanta School of Massage. My father paid $10,000 for me to go to the Atlanta School of Massage. I graduated #1 in my class, and 10-month course, 8 to 5 p.m. every day. I get the #1 job in Atlanta with a company called Corporate Sports. I sign in. I'm excited. I'm very good at massage therapy. I'm a good-looking kid. I got a good attitude. I got a good personality. I am going to zoom through this, man. I can't wait to get going. And the first client I had was a woman, and she walked in and saw me and turned around and walked out. And I went, what, excuse me, where are you going? Well, as I continue to try to find out about this, I finally got the women to start saying, there's no way you're touching me. There's no way there may be some fat on my back. I may have a bump on my back. My husband would kill me. No. Everything I banked on being a successful massage therapist was all of a sudden flushed down the toilet. My looks and my personality was going to be my training through this unbelievable massage therapy life. I couldn't wait to see how good looking and cool and fun, and I'm also a good massage. I'm good at what I do. Was going to be wonderful for me. And not one person in 10 months said, you know what? Women may be insecure with your look. Not one person. It was just known that this was going to be very good for me. And my first client saw me and turned around and walked out. And I went, oh my God. So I still 10 months, $10,000. I'm still pushing forward. So I'm massaging women's shoulders while they're getting their nails done. I'm trying to get to know them. And it worked at that salon. But if you went to the next salon, it was going to be the woman that walked in, saw me, and walked out. So I was having these battles that I was fighting, and I was making a living, but I wasn't going to make a career out of this. So a year into this of me busting my butt, I'm depressed, and I'm at the swimming pool at where we live in Kennesaw, Georgia, at an apartment complex called Popular Place Apartments. And Missy Hyatt, a female announcer for World Championship Wrestling, saw me. I had no idea who she was. I did not watch wrestling, and I was not a fan.
Mm.
I knew who Ric Flair was. I knew who the Road Warriors were. I knew who Lex Luger was, and I knew like Gordon Soley, and I knew who Dusty Rhodes was, and that's it. I mean, that's it. That's all I knew. Never had a birthday regimented. I never had a birthday theme, wrestling theme. Never ever. Never dressed up like a wrestler. And pro wrestlers usually are giant fans of the business. They had their favorite wrestler. They dressed up like their favorite wrestler. That wasn't the case for me and several guys. It wasn't, but most cases it was a big deal. Mine it was not. So I go, wrestling? And she goes, yeah, you know. And I go, those guys don't make no money. And she goes, our lowest paid guy makes $100,000 a year. And I went, tell me more. So I talked to her. So I talked to her a little bit more, and she schedules me to go down to the WCW school, which there wasn't a school yet. There wasn't a school called the Power Plant. There was a warehouse where Jody Hamilton was, and a guy named Buddy Lee Parker, and they beat up people that wanted to be pro wrestlers. Is all they did. They took $3,000 of your money, and they beat you up until you quit. That was what they called wrestling school. I go down, see what they're doing. I don't have $3,000. I come back to Missy and I say, Missy, I don't got $3,000. I'm broke. What do you suggest? She gets an independent pro wrestling guy named Steve the Brawler Lawler to train me for $1,500. He trains me 3 times and goes, bro, you've got everything it takes to do this. You've got it. My 4th or 5th match was on television in front of people at a place called the Auction Barn, but it was on TV. So my first match ever was televised. So I was a television pro wrestler instantly, and I was horrible. But when you're horrible on live, when you're horrible on TV, you correct it. And I did, and I corrected it fast, and my career was up and going in 90, and I signed with WCW a year later in 91. When I first started, it was in a company called North Georgia Wrestling, and my name was Fabulous Fabian. And from there, the guy named Joe Pedicino owned it. He got in with some people on ESPN and Global Wrestling Federation, the GWF, was going to be the next big deal. WCW, the WWF, and now it was going to be GCW. And I had my foot in the door as the handsome stranger. I wore this mask. I didn't think of the gimmick, but they did. And they gave me the mask and the roses and all this stuff. So the handsome stranger is up and going. 3 months later, they're shut down, and Dusty calls me for an interview.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that specific gimmick, because from what I was reading, it kind of sounds like the handsome stranger was kind of like a Don Juan-esque type figure. Did you use some of that gimmick at all? And I don't mean to jump forward. We'll revisit the part we want to talk about here. But did you use any of that towards like the cocky aspect of the Buff Bagwell character in the NWO, or was it 2 completely different things?
I really believe it was 2 different things. You got to realize the NWO is the furthest thing from my mind. But what is fresh on my mind is I just a year previous was a male stripper. To me, I was a male stripper. It was the handsome stranger to me. I had the coat and would come out of the coat real sexy. I had the sequence jackets with the Chippendale bow tie. I had the cuffs, the cuffs like strippers wear. I was a male stripper wrestler is what I thought I was. And the mask, none of it was my idea. They came up with the mask. I added the sequence to the mask and the sequence to the jacket and the bow tie. I threw my 2 cents with that in there, but the roses and all of that was very stripperish as well, though. So I came out kind of like a male stripper, handing roses out, and to the ladies, and and being sexy and coming out of my jacket sexy. So I was thinking male stripper more than cocky Buff Bagwell kind of thinking.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was a child of the Attitude Era. And when I was a little kid, you guys were doing your thing. I think I was. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan as long as I can remember. My earliest life memory is watching Big Boss Man on TV when I was like 3 or 4. So I've been my whole life, but my peak fandom, like most people, was the Attitude Era. And so my first exposure to you really was when you were joining the NWO. So, how did WCW approach you to joining the NWO? Was it something that, they just thought you'd be a good fit? Or, I mean, I know at that time a lot of people were joining. And also, were you against the initial idea of joining the faction at the time?
Great question again. Everybody instantly wanted to be in the NWO. If you were in the NWO, it was a big deal. But I don't remember thinking that very long because I was in there pretty quick. But I do remember knowing that, hey, man, that would be really cool to be in the NWO. But you also got to remember 5 times in 11 years, I was a world tag team champion. So it ain't like I wasn't in the mainstream of things for my whole career. I was in the mix from jump. And the reason for that is because I remember instantly looking at the world championship line and seeing how long that line was. And I looked right over here, and this tag team line was much shorter to the same ending. A world champion over here and a world champion over in this line. I chose this line and it worked. I became a fantastic tag team wrestler. I was good at it. I understood it. And I had the right people to teach me, like the Nasty Boys and Stone Cold and Pillman as the Hollywood Blondes, and and the Dangerous Alliance with Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson and Rick Rude. These guys were who was teaching me. The best in the business was teaching a rookie. And I listened, and I was a really good listener. And I got good at this profession because of it. So yes, the NWO, everybody wanted to be in. And Kevin came to me as me and Scotty Riggs were the world tag team champions with the American Males. I was with Scotty at the time. And they came to me and said, hey, do you want to be in the NWO? And I said, of course. Very depressing day for Scotty, no matter what. And Scotty did pretty well with the flock and all that stuff. But it was the first day of knowing that, this ain't good, that Marcus is gone. Marcus has gone to the NWO, but he did really well. He stayed with the flock. He made a longer career for himself. I kept going, got bigger and bigger with the NWO and created Buff Bagwell and all that. So it was not enough time that I wasn't in it that I wished I could have been in it. I was in it before I wished I was, but very thankful that I was.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to be honest, there were 2 people in WCW I hated the most: Eric Bischoff and you. The arrogance that you projected was just so on point, because it was, and looking back at an adult, I obviously realized, hey, that was your job. Your job was to make sure that people hated you. And little kids like me, it was still real to me back then, and I was fully immersed. And you too, man. Oh, it was nothing but heat for me.
Right, but that's a good thing. I mean, I've had people walk up to me at these signings and be, hey man, God, I hated your guts. Can I get that picture and that picture? And I'm like, absolutely, yeah. So really, it was I was a very, very good bad guy, and I just really enjoyed playing that part. So it really worked out really well for me. I liked it.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I got a chance to actually speak with Eric, and he said the exact same thing pretty much when I told him I hated his guts. But so something I wanted. Go ahead.
Let me tell you the difference is I worship Eric Bischoff, but Eric Bischoff is really an asshole. I'm a really nice guy. Eric Bischoff is the most incredible guy I've ever met. He signed me to my 3 year deal with a broken neck in the hospital. I worship the ground Eric Bischoff walks on, but Eric Bischoff can be an asshole, but he was the best WCW boss they ever had. He was a friend and a boss though, everybody respected Eric Bischoff, but he was on television. He was the biggest heel there was. And
Yes.
I on the side when people would meet me, they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're really a nice guy," And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just TV stuff." But that means I did a really good job doing that. But Eric was one of the best boss I ever had in my life. But Eric was rough.
Yeah, he is one of my idols. And I don't use that word lightly. When 83 weeks started, and I didn't mean to get on a, pro Eric Bischoff rant, but whatever. When 83 weeks started, that's when I really started to open my eyes to a lot of not only the business aspect of it, but the problems that are created, from the dirt sheets. And we talked about this a little bit before we hit record. I don't pay attention to shoot interviews. I don't read dirt sheets. And even especially now, listening to some of the things that he's talked about, some of the challenges, I think that in today's day and age, when you are that outspoken, you're made to be out more of a heel than most people. And Eric is just such a heat magnet because he tells the truth. Look at everything that
Sure.
he has to deal with from the people that don't like the fact that he is honest about AEW. And while I have you here, this isn't in my notes, but let's talk about this. Have you heard some of the stuff that he says about AEW? And if so, what do you think about his opinion on that, how that business is being ran?
I have not, but I would imagine that we would agree on some of the same things. It's
Okay.
it's when I watch the program, it's tough to watch because
Yeah.
we didn't come from that era of five guys waiting on a person to jump off the top rope and hit all of us, and we're all five going to go down, and then you hit everybody with the kitchen sink, but then you pin them with a roll up. I can't wrap my head around it. It's too crazy. Every night I watch AEW, when I do watch at least 3 of the 4 matches, somebody would have been fired out of it back in my time. And nobody, I ain't gonna say nobody, very rarely do I go through a program where I see anybody that would have made the Nitro roster. I mean, they wouldn't even have been on the roster. There was so many stars during the Attitude Era that I don't see anybody from AEW that would have been on our show. And that's not a knock. That's just the facts. So, I mean, when you got Lex Luger, Steen, Macho Man, Rick Rude, Kurt Hennig, Hulk Hogan, I haven't said Buff Bagwell yet and ain't going to. There's a list of superstars before you get to Buff Bagwell. And so it's crazy. And now I see guys on there that I've never heard of. They're on mainstream television. I've never heard of them. So I could go on the same rant with AEW as well. I wish it was different, but it just isn't. It's a very weird thing for me to watch a show and a guy 140 pounds that won't even get in the tanning bed comes off a top rope and knocks down 20 guys. It's just hard for me to swallow.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when it comes to, like you said, the high spots, it's dangerous for no reason, and you would know that more than most because you had a
Right.
dangerous situation yourself. Matter of fact, that's actually kind of what I want to talk about next. April 22nd, 1998 on Thunder, which was actually 5 days away from my 12th birthday. Which is why I remember this spot. Obviously, you remember it for different reasons, but that's why I remember this in particular because it was so close to my 12th birthday when this happened. Rick Steiner and Lex Luger was in a tag match with you and Scott Norton. And there was a spot where Rick was diving for the bull or going for the diving bulldog, didn't hit it right, and you were severely injured. It's something that I always kind of wanted to talk to you about because that's luckily for most people a once in a lifetime injury. Sucks that it happened to you, but as that was going down, and another reason why I remember it clearly is because it was the first time in my lifetime anyway, where the curtain was kind of pulled back. Again, what I was saying earlier, it was still real to me. So I'm watching this and I see these people who are supposed to be the most vile human beings on earth start to show concern and the WCW ref comes over showing concern, and WCW officials come out showing concern, and 12-year-old me is going, wait a minute, what's going on? That was the first time for me where kayfabe was really broken. What was going through your mind as you were laying on the mat, and what was the severity of the injury for those who don't know?
Again, fantastic setup. It was what happened when he missed the bulldog, and with the live TV cameras rolling, I tried to catch up to the move to complete the move and made it look like he, just missed it or barely caught the bulldog. And when I did, I hit him in his back and my neck. They always say tuck your neck, because if you tuck your head can tuck a really long ways. Your head can't go back very far. So when I hit him in the back, my neck went this way. But it broke at 3-4. And at 3-4, when it broke, medically the break went into my spinal cord. It hit my spinal cord, which bruised it. When you bruise your spinal cord, keep it in mind, you're not getting told this at the time, but when you bruise your spinal cord, you are paralyzed. Swelling happens and you feel like you are 100% paralyzed. You're paralyzed. And then, so when he rolls me over, I get in his eyes, and I get Rick Steiner's eyes, and I go, I'm paralyzed. And he's like, there's no memo you get on what to do when somebody's paralyzed in a wrestling match. There is no plan B. There's no nothing. You just don't know what to do because it doesn't happen. So I'm trying to tell everybody, if you watch it back, I can't move anything. I'm 100% paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. Don't touch me. But the finish of the match was Scotty come in, hit Rick with a chair. I puts Buff Bagwell on top. 1, 2, 3, NWO wins. So Scotty slides in the ring. I'm ranting and raving about being paralyzed. He hits Rick with a chair. He goes to put me on top. I'm telling him no, because I'm hurt. He just puts my arm on top of Rick. But my arm goes because I'm paralyzed. 1, 2, 3. The ref counts with both people on their back. Who won? And what happened? Nobody knows. The fans don't know anything. But the one thing I ask everybody to watch when they're listening to this, because it's only for a second you can see it, but when they initially roll me over, my legs are crossed. If you're truly paralyzed or you're dead, either one of those, and you roll a person from his stomach over, their legs 100% of the time are going to cross. My legs are crossed because I'm paralyzed. And the only reason they're uncrossed when the camera comes back is because stupid Virgil, he goes to pull me out of the ring thinking I'm just joking around, but I'm really injured. And Scott Norton's like, Virgil, what are you doing? Don't. So that's why, if you notice, my legs are kind of out of the ring because Virgil tried to slide me out like an idiot. So that's why when it goes to commercial break and comes back, my legs are kind of outside the ring ropes a little bit, but I'm still just kind of laying there. At this junction, it's probably a 6 to 8 minute period. And I don't know why, but my chest wasn't coming back. My leg, Danny Young was our trainer, and I remember my fingers were moving, and I didn't know it. He goes, I'm going, oh my God, it's over. I'm paralyzed. Oh my God. I mean, I wasn't crying because it was so surreal, but it was devastating. I mean, my life was over. I even said out loud, and Lex Luger could witness this, Norton and Danny Young could witness this, that I even said, I can go to schools like Christopher Reeves and go see children and tell them about this, and I can help them. I'd already taken a negative, like being paralyzed for the rest of my life, and I turned it around into being positive and being able to go to schools and do something like Christopher Reeves has done. In the middle of that positivity, Danny Young goes, your hand's moving. And I can't look up at my hand because I'm paralyzed. And I I can remember thinking, oh God, I do feel something. And it was like hot water came up this arm and stopped. And then hot water came up the other arm and stopped. My leg, each leg came back and stopped. My core didn't come back. And when it comes back out of commercial break, if you watch the video, in that video, I go like this. Because I'm feeling to see if I can feel my chest, and I can't. By then, they duct tape me to the board. Now I'm taped to a board, and nobody will talk to you. I'm like, am I paralyzed? What's going on? And they won't answer you. They don't answer people with neck injuries because they truly don't know. Yeah. They don't know what's going on. So they just, I said, man, I cussed them out. I go, will somebody effing talk to me? And a dude got in my ear and he goes, we're not allowed to, man. We don't know what's wrong. So you quit asking. And I go, thank you. That's enough. I got it. So 3 hours later, they come back in after 2 MRIs, a CAT scan. 3 hours later of being duct taped forehead across that board, completely duct taped down to a board. They take me and come in the room and the doctor goes, sit up. And I went, what? He goes, sit up. So I go from being paralyzed for the rest of my life to tell a doctor telling me to sit up. And I kind of start moving and I can move my arms and I set up. By the time I set up, I am 100% normal. I feel like I could get up and run a 30 or 40-yard dash. I can't believe it. I go, what happened? And he goes, you bruised your spinal cord. When you bruise your spinal cord, the human body thinks they're paralyzed. So when the swelling goes back down, you can then move again. The problem is we now got to go in and pull where you broke your neck. We got to pull 3-4 out of your spine and replace it with another cervical disc. And that's what they did. And about a week after that surgery, about the week after the injury, they went back in. So crazy injury. Again, if you don't believe in God, when one of those things happen, I think it would make you believe in him. But fortunately, I already did believe in the big man. So I was in a good place with God. And I just believe that very simply, I could have been paralyzed the rest of my life right there. Instead, I lived to tell about it. And it's a really good story.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know. And that's why I like having these conversations about things that, might have been told 100 times because I did not know that entire story. And that's awesome that, it was over so quickly because man, that could have been anything.
But talking about kayfabe now, it was a big deal backstage because we all got along like a family. WCW was much tighter than the WWF. We were friends. We were family. We were a family. So Goldbergs and Stings and Luger was in the ring with me crying. We were all super good friends. And talking about breaking kayfabe, Eric had to tell all the guys, you can't go to the ring. Goldberg wanted to come to the ring. All my friends wanted to come see about me, but they couldn't. Scotty Riggs was ringside at this injury. He's watching as the flock. He's watching from the ring. I mean, from the fans. And he remembers Raven telling him, hey, something's wrong bad. His legs are crossed. So Raven did catch the leg cross thing. And so, but yeah, it was a big, serious time that this could have really messed up kayfabe tremendously because it just, at that time, I mean, the WCW was against the NWO and it was true and it was real.
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever have a conversation with Virgil about, or did anyone ever say, hey, if Virgil would have kept pulling, then, it would have been even worse? Or what, did you ever have a conversation with anyone about Virgil pulling you like that?
Believe it or not, as you were asking, and I thought, how weird for me not to ever have a conversation with him about that. But no, it was never brought up or anything. Again, though, it could have been, if he would have pulled me harder, it could have really hurt me. I don't know. I've never had a talk with him about it. He didn't mean anything by it. Like Rick didn't really mean to hurt me, but he almost paralyzed me by a pure accident. But Virgil was just kind of doing his job, and that was something that the Buff Bagwell character would do, was lay there acting like I'm hurt and I wasn't. But our announcers did not know what we were doing because they wanted to call it as they saw it. So the
Right.
announcers all day long would stay as far away from us as they could because they wanted to call it like they saw it. If you know a 50-yard touchdown's coming and you're a football announcer, that's not going to sound good, 40, 30, 20, touchdown. But if you don't know what's coming, oh my God, enter, oh, 40, 30, so that's how pro wrestling is too. The announcers, they didn't know. If you listen to them, they're going, "Oh, this must be some kind of scam for the NWO's got up their sleeve here, another dirty plot." Because they didn't know what was really happening. But the truth was, I was really injured, and at that stage, it was a very serious injury.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to end it talking about your WCW run on a negative note, even though it all turned out for the best. So, is there anything in general during your time in WCW, whether it be a match, a moment, whatever, when you think over your time in WCW, what's one moment where you go, oh, that was one of my favorites?
WCW and Eric Bischoff were so incredible to me. I was fortunate enough to have tens, tens of those, hundreds of those times where I went, oh my God, from riding on my Harley that Eric Bischoff had shipped out to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Minneapolis, Minnesota, for all the wrestlers to get on and ride our bikes through the mountains to go into Sturgis, South Dakota. And the times Eric did that for us, that was one huge moment that I'll never forget. Hulk Hogan, being in the ring with Hulk Hogan the first time, and then several times after it was another 10, 15, 20 times of, oh my God, is this happening? Beating Ric Flair in the ring, beating Roddy Piper with the blockbuster. These things are things that I was fortunate enough to be part of, and I'm so grateful to be part of them. It was just a fantastic run of 11-year career on television. That it was there was even the tag teams I had, all of them were incredible for the time of the tag team. I get asked a lot, what was your favorite tag team? And they're all so special to me. Me and Tuco was my first. We were tag team of the year. We were a black white team that was very rare, and we became tag team of the year and world tag team champions. And I was rookie of the year. And then my second one being the Stars and Stripes, red, white, and blue, huge. And then Scotty Riggs, American Males. That ultimately really was probably my favorite because that was the closest to Buff Bagwell. That was the earrings and the goatee and the chokers, and I was able to be more like Buff when I was trying to get to the whole way. And so, but really, it was all just the most incredible, wonderful experience. That every time I think of the incredible, wonderful experience, I credit one person for all of it, and that's Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. And speaking of people who need to be in the Hall of Fame, two Cole Scorpio, what are y'all
Right.
waiting on? I mean, come on. Yes, his WWE, WWF run wasn't that great when you look back and think of it, but the things that he did outside and is still doing outside of the WWF, come on, man. Come
He's
on.
unbelievable. He was the first dude, and let me really understand this. He's the first wrestler over 210 pounds to do the 1.5 and do it every single night and nail it every single night. He is, with a shadow of a doubt. There's two people that should have been in the Hall of Fame 10 years ago, and the two people that I know should have been in there are Lex Luger and Two Cold Scorpio.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. Well, the last couple of minutes I have you here, I just wanted to say it's amazing to see you doing so well. I know when the pictures started surfacing of you as Mr. Rogers. I know I popped hard. All the trials and tribulations you've been through, man. To hear that you're still kicking it with the sobriety life is awesome. I did want to follow up on one thing here, and I was watching a video that you posted back in November where you said that one of your biggest challenges when it comes to your sobriety is your temper. And that really struck a chord with me because I have the exact same problem as far as temper goes. What have you found in your journey going through this new phase of life that you could give somebody like me advice in when it comes to having temper problems? Because it's not necessarily funny, but as I'm listening to you talk about this, I'm at work and some little thing that somebody was doing at work pissed me off to no end. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, why did I just get upset with that? What tips can you give me and other people out there when it comes to controlling stuff like that?
I can give you one gigantic one that is really now in my everyday walk, and it is called the pause button. Um, you have, and how I'm practicing this is whether it's something good, if it's good news or if it's bad news, you need to pause to process it before you react. Even if it's something that's great and you want to if you want to show that you're grateful, if you pause and just regroup your thoughts for a minute, you'll see that your answer in a positive way is going to be incredibly better. Same thing with your temper. If you can pause, and this is something that's extremely hard to do, bro. I'm telling you, I practice it daily. But if you can continue to practice pausing when something happens, if you pause, you can handle and process the situation better. And you will find that if you pause and think about it, it just isn't worth the trouble that's coming. You will have another thought that'll happen by pausing that'll get you a better solution out of it. Because if you play it on through and let your temper, let the guy that upset you, if you would have just instantly blasted him and all that, when it was all over, what truly did it get you? You didn't get anywhere. You didn't get further in life. It didn't help the situation at all. No matter what, losing your temper and reacting instead of pausing, it is going to be worse. You have got to see that. If you know it's going to be worse, if you play back the times you've lost your temper, it's always worse. So if you could just realize that and take a pause and know that by pausing, you got a time to think and deliver something that's going to get you in less trouble with less consequences, no matter what. This is something I practice daily. It's something I pray about. I believe in it tremendously. I have gone to jail over losing my temper. I am in a program called the DUI court program. And the last time I went to jail, that November video, I went to jail for disrupting class. I did not say a cuss word. I elevated my voice and I argued a thing that I was 100% right. But by the way I handled it, they had no choice but to get in trouble. So if I would have paused and I could have talked to her, I could have got so much more out of what truly happened instead of me just going to jail for 24 hours. I got nowhere with her being 100% wrong. She was 100% wrong on what she did, but because I showed my butt with my temper, that overshadowed what she did. So I lost twice. I lost the argument because of my temper, and I went to jail. So I didn't win. At the time, you think, oh my God, I'm gonna blast her because I'm right. But I didn't
Yeah.
have to blast her. I didn't have to lose my temper. If you pause, you can figure that out and come out of it 1,000 times better.
That's awesome advice. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Well, I always end any conversation with anybody in the wrestling industry the exact same way. Thank you very much for everything you've done for the industry, putting your body on the line. Obviously, we already talked about, because it could be dangerous. The hours upon hours of entertainment you give everyone for everything that you've done, especially somebody like me. I mean, you guys were my childhood. The Monday Night Wars was my childhood. So thank you very much for that contribution and the part that you played in my life. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. If there's any socials or anything else that you would like to plug, the floor is yours.
The best way to get in touch with me is to go to marcusbuffbagwell.com. That takes you to all my social media pages. If you're looking to try to get in touch with me to book me or anything, that's also on my website. But it's marcusbuffbagwell@gmail.com. You can get in touch with me that way. I keep myself very reachable because I enjoy people so much that I enjoy going to the signings. I enjoy doing everything I do with recovery right now. My next step in life is doing, I want to do full-time recovery stuff. Buff Bagwell things I'll be doing the rest of my life anyway. But recovery is really where my heart is at. I want to try to save people from not leaving their self with an injury like I have gave myself with addiction. I have got to deal with the rest of my life by me limping on a bad right knee because of my addiction. I've got a story to tell that's trying to save the person in addiction before they injure themselves and they've hurt themselves or killed themselves or somebody else. I've got a really good story to show that, and I'm going to be telling it much more in the future. 18 months sober, thanks to everybody out there that supports me with this walk. But stay in touch with me. I'm easy to reach. MarcusBuffBagwell.com. I love you guys so much. Thanks.
Buff, you are still the stuff. Thank you for joining me, my man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay.